Hi there. Today's conversation is with Kevin, the video guy. And what else can we talk about than video content? So, watch this episode if you want to get more reach out of the content you've already created or learn how to create content that actually generates sales and use it strategically to bring more clients on autopilot. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Kevin. How are
Hello.
you?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am doing so good, and I'm so excited for today's talk. I know you are the video guy, just awesome with video content, and I cannot wait to hear you out, to learn those valuable tips and tricks from you, and to finally understand the whole image around video content. Because I feel like
Mm.
there's so many misunderstandings around the term and everything that it involves.
Mhm.
So I'm just happy I'll have you here today with us to share that magic with me, with the listeners. Hello, dear listeners. We're so happy to have you here with us. So then let's go straight into it. And Kevin, the light is on you. Could you tell us who you are, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, by the way. But yeah, my name is Kevin DuBose. A lot of people know me as Kevin the Video Guy. I do video stuff. I help coaches and agency owners, leverage super simple videos to get more clients. Because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate it, and so I like to simplify it. And it's something that I think is overcomplicated and is underutilized because people are scared to go on video, or they're worried it doesn't look good, or they don't know what to say. And I think a lot of that is a lot more simple than than people make it. So I am here to help with that.
Well, I feel like this is exactly what many of us need in our lives:
Mhm.
simplicity and a clear understanding of things
Yeah.
and concepts. Okay, so you are Kevin, the video guy. What sort of content are you creating? Is it just video, or what types of video? Or, yes, what type of content are you creating?
So it's a good question because there's not really like, I mean, yes, I kind of am the video guy, but a lot of things that come behind content are messaging and communication, and the vehicle that I happen to use is video. So some people are really good at writing blog posts or writing short posts or whatever the case may be. Video is just the vehicle that I chose. I have a background in doing like traditional video work with businesses in person, and then we all know COVID happened, and so I kind of wanted to shift more online, and so that's kind of where my background comes in. And it took me a while to kind of figure out where I fit in here, to be honest with you, and that's kind of happened more or less recently, and I'm very cool with being transparent about that. But yeah, there's not really any right or wrong type of content. Like content, the purpose of it is really just to be seen and be present, and people to see you and know what you do. I think it was Grant Cardone. He has kind of a mixed reputation in this space. Some people love him, some people hate him. But he said something where he said, if everybody in the world knew who you are and what you did, like that would be insane for you and your business or whatever goal you were trying to accomplish. Just having the awareness there, and that's what the content's for, and that's video. That's the vehicle that I chose because for me it's relatively easy to do, right? Like we just kind of sit here, we turn it on, we talk. You don't have to type out a bunch of stuff. You don't have to think about it. I'm a big fan of doing live videos as well because it's more off the cuff. You have the ums and the buts and the pauses, and you hear someone being an actual human as opposed to it sounding really scripted and not as genuine. But I also think there's a lot of value in, we've all seen reels and TikToks these days, all the short form content. There's a ton of value there as well, and the reach that you can get from those is kind of insane right now. So utilizing those is definitely something you should do as well. And then of course YouTube. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. There's no secret about that. So there's no real real right or wrong answer there. It's just really any kind of video I think is the way of the future.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that for sure. And honestly, I didn't know that YouTube it's the second largest search engine. So see,
Yeah.
sometimes for you as an expert, it just feels like everyone knows, it's like
Mhm.
duh. but no. So that's a new thing for me. Okay. So you already mentioned some of the benefits of video, but let's assume, like most of our listeners today, I am a coach and I want to start growing my coaching business. Why should I use video? Again, we touched on some of the points and just before, but more specifically, how can video get me clients, or how can I use it, or what sort of videos should I use? Any sort of insight on this?
So that is a very loaded question. So first of all, I don't think I'm never going to encourage somebody to not do only text posts or images or something like that as well. Like I said, this is kind of just the vehicle that I chose, but it's also the vehicle that the algorithms prefer. And I'm not a big like algorithm chaser. Like you want to do all these things and, this and that to get a million views or whatever. But I do think that people respond to video a lot better. There's a lot of statistics out there that show that, I don't know that's the numbers off the top of my head, but I know there's statistics saying that, when you use video on a landing page, it gets X amount of, percentage more conversion rates. People are more likely to make a purchase decision after watching a video, because I think there's something special about being able to see the person and hear them speak and just understand who they are kind of as a person. You feel like you know them after you've watched enough of their stuff. And I've, have several people reaching out to me saying that because like I do a lot of video, obviously. But yeah, I think that people, if you're not creating video at all right now, I think it's a big hurdle to overcome, especially if, you're creating text posts and things like that are actually getting some traction and getting clients and starting conversations. Because that's really what it boils down to, especially, it depends where you're at in your business journey. Like if you're at like the 0 to 5 to 10K a month mark and you aren't really getting sales from your content, that's, more or less probably a messaging issue than it is like the vehicle of content that you're using. But when you're, 50, 100 plus K a month and you're not systematizing the content and scheduling it out and repurposing the content that you already have instead of trying to create something new every day, that's, you're definitely kind of leaving money and time on the table because, we're all entrepreneurs here, right? Like we want to be able to give as much time or get as much time back as we can. Otherwise, we would just go get a 9-to-5 job and, work till we're 70 and hopefully retire. I think there's a lot of ways to make it to where it makes sense for everybody. But I hope that answered your question. I kind of went off on a little tangent there, but I think that makes sense, hopefully. But in terms of getting started, it's, Gary Vee also has a very mixed reputation of like some people love him, some people hate him. But if you're not familiar with his story, which is really interesting to me, I encourage you to look it up. He did something called Wine Library TV. It was when YouTube just started, and he made 1,000 episodes of Wine Library TV. Like just comprehending the fact of making 1,000 videos is a lot to do, and I'm sure he felt like he sucked at first too. Like it's one of those things you just got to practice. And everybody sucks at something when they first start. And a lot of people talk about the first 100 of anything, whether that be making videos, the first 100 paintings that you make, drawings, whatever it is, you know what I mean? There's always going to be a learning curve, and you always get better the more that you do it.
Love that. And just to spark some controversy, I love Gary Vee, just saying.
Yeah.
But you mentioned some very interesting things over there. You said, you mentioned about that transition from 0 to 5, 10K and then to 50K. And you mentioned about different ways to deal with your content. Could you tell us roughly how does video, let me rephrase this. What should people who just get started, so let's say 0, 5, 10K, do in terms of video? Like, what do you recommend they do about video? Is it maybe a YouTube channel? Is it those reels that you were talking about? What should these people do? So those from 0 to 10K.
So there's a lot of different options there, and everybody's going to tell you something different for sure. But I think before you actually go and make anything, you need to know, this is going to sound really cliche, but you need to know exactly who you're talking to. because if you don't, you're just going to be spewing a bunch of messaging out there, and it's not resonating with anybody because it's not very specific. And people in that stage are like, they think like, oh, I can serve everybody. Well, that doesn't always work because your messaging is so broad, it's not speaking to a person directly. And an example that I don't know if you guys have ever read $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy. It's kind of taken over this, the coaching space in the past year or two. And he has a lot of really good stuff in there. But one thing that he talked about is having a hot dog stand in front of a, like a gym where people are working out. Like if you're, selling hot dogs to people just coming out of the gym, you'll probably sell one or two, like you might sell some, but that's not going to be a starving crowd, right? Somebody who like actually needs your service because they're trying to be healthy, right? You might have some people like, oh, I just ran 10 miles. I can eat a hot dog. But for the most part, I think they're generally trying to be healthy and they're not going to want to eat a hot dog. But if you're outside of a bar at 2 a.m. when people have been drinking and hanging out and you have a hot dog stand, you're going to sell out every time. So I think that, and the polar opposite of that is if you're trying to sell hot dogs to vegans, right? Like people who don't eat meat, like, you're not going to sell any. So, I think knowing your audience is really the first step, and knowing more than just surface level stuff. Like, oh, what are they struggling with? Like that was a big strategy these days. Go into groups and post like, what are you struggling with? What can I help with? And then you naturally come in like, oh, look at this. I can solve this problem. That's a little bit overplayed these days in 2022, So it's going a little bit deeper than that, knowing what books on Amazon that they read the reviews on Amazon, because then you see some of the language and some of the wording that they use and some of the thoughts that they have. Like, oh, I thought this particular book was going to be XYZ, but it actually ended up being ABC. And then you can take that and use that in your messaging because that's somebody who's in your target audience. There's the words that they actually used, and that's going to relate to them. And also, like, what keeps them up at night? What are they scared of? Like, what movies do they watch? What books do they read? Podcasts they listen to? Things like that. Really getting to know them better than they know themselves. And when you do that, problems that they have that they didn't even know they had. And then when you have messaging in your videos and your text posts and whatever content that you create speaks to those problems, then they're going to be like, oh my God, this person knows exactly what my problem is, and they're going to be able to help me. And I think the next phase of that is knowing which stage of the audience, or which stage of what am I trying to say? Which phase of the sales cycle, I guess, the audience is in. So you're going to have like your cold audience that's never really heard of you. So that's going to be more like connection type content. You want to show them that you're a real person. You have knowledge of what problems they have and what they're trying to solve. And then you're going to have your warmer audience type stuff, which is going to be kind of thought reversals, which are going to be like, oh, you've been doing it this way. You should really be doing it this way because this way is better. And then when you get to like the hot audience who's very familiar with who you are, you've been able to change the way that they think and how they perceive what you do and how it's, the natural solution. Then you can kind of start to point them in the right direction of like, okay, so now this person, I connected with them. They're a real person. I like them. I now see the value in what they do and see that I've been doing it the wrong way the entire time. So now what do I do? And then you kind of point them in the direction of wherever it is that you want them to go, whatever the next step is. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. So like if you've ever heard of a VSL, which is a video sales letter, that's one of the things that I teach, in my programs and stuff. But that kind of combines all of that into one video. Or you can have separate places where people are going to do that. So like, Facebook groups these days, like the content that you post on your personal profile is going to be kind of like that first step. Stuff that's in your Facebook group is going to be kind of like that second step. And then you can have call to actions at the end of your content to direct people after they're, familiar with you, the problems that they solve, you've changed the way that they think, and then can push them into a direction. Like, I don't think people should just post content for the sake of posting content. And I think there's a lot to be said about being strategic about it and pointing them into a particular direction. That was kind of a long-winded answer, but I think I got there, hopefully.
Got it. Some super good tips on identifying that target audience, because I know everyone talks about it, right? But I feel like there is a pretty shallow understanding yet of how we can define that target audience. How can we really understand our clients and who we're talking to? So that tip with going to Amazon reviews of the books they read, that was pretty awesome. I didn't know about. So thanks for that. Okay, so you mentioned about Facebook and how you can post on your profile first, then your group, and then how you should have call to actions. So how would these videos look like? Are they going to be already recorded? Are they going to be lives? How long should they be? What should they be about? Can you tell us more about it?
Well, that's also a loaded question because there's just so many options, and I don't really think there's necessarily a right or wrong way to do it. There's a lot of people doing challenges these days. They'll do like a 3 or 5 day challenge, things like that. I think there's a lot of value there, but I think that that's a huge time commitment for somebody. And it depends who your target audience is, right? Going back to, sounding repetitive, but like if it's somebody who's just starting out, like that's a huge time commitment. Although it might be super valuable information. Like the first day might be finding out who your ideal client is. Like what problem can you solve? Like these are all separate days of the challenge or whatever. Even if it's only a day or an hour per day, I think that, it's just a big ask from somebody. I am a huge fan of live videos because, kind of already talked about it. They're super off the cuff. I just do like an outline. I don't script videos in general, but I'm, comfortable with doing videos. Some people would rather script, and that's okay. I just don't think that you should, write it word for word and sound like a robot. But I do think there's a lot of value in live videos because, and I don't think they're necessarily boosted by the algorithm as much as they once were, but they provide that genuine, the authenticity that, that word gets thrown around a lot, but it shows that you're a real person, shows how you speak. And then you can take long form content like that and then chop it up into like the micro content. So like if you have a 20-minute live video that you do and you have a little like 30-second gold nugget out of there of like some really good advice that you gave, then you can take that and create like a piece of micro content to post on your profile. And then have a call to action at the end of that says, hey, if you want to listen to the full clip, I went live in my group yesterday. Here's the link, or, whatever the case may be. That's an example of how to use how to leverage one piece of content and do multiple pieces and then point them to the original piece. Does that make sense?
Definitely. And I'm wondering, because this is one way to repurpose content, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are other ways we can take these videos and repurpose them? Can we just, like you said, for example, you send them back to the original video, so to watch the whole video. And I guess the idea behind it was what? So that they join your group or maybe subscribe to your channel. In what other ways can we repurpose the content than the example that you gave?
Yeah, so tons of different ways, really. But I mean, the goal is to get them to take the next step in whatever the process is. So whether that's to join the group, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to an email list or whatever. But that's really like I guess, so kind of what I do for my clients actually is we'll take that 30-second nugget and post it onto the different resolutions of the different formats for the different platforms. So we'll take it and put it into like a square video to post on LinkedIn and Facebook. We'll post it, make it vertical, so you can post it for reels and stories and TikToks or whatever. And then they all have that. So that way you're getting the message out there because there's all this low hanging fruit on all these other platforms. And I think there's a lot of, people saying that, you shouldn't post on everything. It's too much. And I agree. It is a lot to have to, try to keep up with that. So what we do is we, take the repurposed content that's in all the different formats for all the different platforms. And then we reuse that same stuff on all the platforms and not necessarily on the same day, right? Like after a while, you build up this bank of content that you can go through and, on days where you don't feel like posting anything, you can just go to this Google Drive where you have, dozens and dozens of pieces and you can go and post that day. But the strategic way to do it is to do that. But you can also take the transcription of the video and send it to an editor. You can do it yourself or, pay some money on Fiverr or whatever the case may be to make a blog post out of it. If you're still doing blogs, that's totally cool. Whatever floats your boat. I don't particularly do blogs, but that's just me. Or you can even use the text as the text for the post as well. So a lot of people are doing that. They'll make the video, they'll take the transcription, they'll edit it, make sure it makes sense because it's mostly AI, and they'll use that as the text for the post. And then you can also make like quote cards, and like when you have the little awesome quote that you said, you can make something in Canva to, have the little things. I don't really think that does a whole lot for like engagement or anything, but it's about kind of going back to just being present and being seen. And I think there's a lot of value in that.
Got it. And in your case, for example, do you recommend people do this go through this process themselves, or how should they go about it? About editing this video, getting that transcript? Should they learn all about it, or where can they go for help? You mentioned Fiverr. Anything else that they should know?
Well, I mean, obviously, like this is a service that I offer, but I'm not gonna like try to sell it to everybody because it's not for everybody, right? Like there are some people who would rather do it themselves, and there's a lot of really good services out there. Content Fries is a really good one, where you can go in, you can upload your video, and like they have like little templates you can do to make it square and have the little playhead that goes across the screen and do the templates and stuff. But for me, like those are a little bit more cookie cutter. It's templates that other people are using. It's not very branded. But that's just my thing. And my clients are typically on the higher end of that, where they care about branding and they care about their image and things like that. But I think for somebody just starting out, I think it can be a lot to try to do all of that, because it's a full-time job. I think it's definitely possible. Like if you're on a completely bootstrap budget, then yeah, I would recommend learning one of the web-based tools and then graduating into some more of like the more professional tools if you have the time to want to do that. But I think the time versus money spectrum really comes into play here. Like some people have more time that they can leverage. Maybe they lost their job to COVID, or whatever the case may be, and they have all the time in the world to dedicate to this. Then yeah, it's a very valuable skill to learn. But I don't think that it makes sense for like the solopreneur or somebody who has a team of 2 or 3 people. I don't really think it makes sense for them to do that financially and time wise. But that's
Got it. Yeah. So then you said one option is to go get this, let's say, freelancers. What should we type, or what should we search for? Content editors, or what should we even search for?
That's a tough question too. Probably just like video editors, content creators, something like that on Fiverr. And that can be really hit or miss. And typically I think most of us have figured out with Fiverr, you kind of get what you pay for most of the time. Sometimes you'll find a gold nugget in there, or like a little hidden gem, and it works out really well. I've gotten some really great things made on Fiverr, but I've also had some really bad things made on Fiverr. It's one of those things that's just kind of hit or miss. Video editor, content creator, something like that, you should be able to find somebody who at least has the knowledge of editing videos. But I think being able to say, I edit videos, like, okay, you can use a software to some extent, but like, how do you have the marketing knowledge behind it to like pick the right titles and edit it in a way to where it keeps the viewer engaged in the video to actually watch the entire thing, instead of just slapping some text on it and calling it a day.
Got it. This is super, super useful information, because I know that many coaches want to get more into video, but it's as you were saying, a full-time job. You have to learn to edit, to crop, to edit the audio, to add those titles. It's a lot. It's very time consuming. So that's why I wanted to see what other option is there. And okay, freelancer is one option. What is the other option? You were saying yourself. So how can people can find somebody like you with your experience? Yeah.
So to hire it out, or to learn it themselves?
To hire you, like to access maybe. So as you were saying, Fiverr and freelancers, that's one option.
Mm-hmm.
What are you? Are you a business, or you have a agency around video content? Is this the next level after freelancers?
Yeah, I guess you could still kind of consider me a freelancer, but it's more or less an agency. I have several clients and stuff, but yeah, I guess that would be the next step of it. There's several services out there online, and I think it says a lot when you have somebody that speaks the native language that you produce content in, because a lot of times there's typos and like little certain phrases and stuff that get lost in translation, and they don't like, especially if you have subtitles on your videos. Like if you are doing reels, like Alex Hormozy, to bring him up again, or Gary Vee, any of those guys, if you go look at their short form content on Instagram and LinkedIn, it all has subtitles, because there's a funny stat: 85% of people who watch videos watch them without sound on social media. 85. And I think it's like 30 or 40% of those people are watching them on the toilet.
Wait, what?
That was like an actual statistic.
How? I don't know anyone who watches videos without sound.
Like, I'm talking about like reels, like the short form stuff. Like when you're just like scroll happy and you're watching stuff and they have the subtitles on them. Yeah.
That's insane.
That statistic would be much different on YouTube, because that is a long form content platform. But if you're on Instagram scrolling through reels, that's specifically designed to be, just keep scrolling. And, obviously they want you to stop and watch that particular video. But the attention span on that, like just the mindset of the viewer there is much different than something like YouTube, where they're there to go watch a 10-minute video on a specific thing that they want to learn about, as opposed to trying to be entertained on social media. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, you mentioned TikTok, Instagram, and that really made me think about, guess what? Viral videos.
Mm-hmm.
We hear this everywhere around us. It's what everyone aspires to create or become viral, viral, viral. But more recently, I've started hearing about targeted videos. Can you explain a bit the difference between them? And can you give us some context on viral videos, on targeted videos? What's the difference?
So this term viral has been thrown around the past several years, and I think that, I have actual data on it that I'll share in a minute, but like I don't think that if you're a coach, I don't think you should be going and trying to do the latest trending song and do some stupid dance and like point at text bubbles or anything like that on the screen to try to go get 10 million views. Granted, there are some people that do that. It's really big in like the network marketing space for whatever reason. But I don't think that views necessarily translate to generating actual conversations with people, which in turn generates sales. And to give you an example, I have a reel that I made, and I posted it on TikTok and Instagram and reels on Facebook, and it has collectively, I don't know, like 15,000 views or whatever. That has generated me 0 conversations and 0 booked appointments. But I have this one video on that's strategically placed on my profile that I can track the views on it and track the clicks to it, and it literally has like 68 views or something like that. Like nothing crazy. Like literally not 68,000, like 68 views. And it's generated me like 15 appointments or something crazy. Like, so it's about going back to the very foundation. The first thing we talked about was knowing who you're talking to and getting that person to watch this video, as opposed to just trying to go get these vanity metrics of, X amount of thousands or millions of views or whatever. Think about actually getting your target or your ideal client to watch this video, as opposed to just whoever and their brother will watch it.
Again, insane. So many insane things you're saying today. But was it the same video or was it a different video?
Oh, it's a different video.
Okay, can it not be related to messaging? No, it's
well, sure. And it's, like I said, like it's just about not focusing on the vanity metrics, right? So like that was just a short form reel. Like I did, I don't know, it was like a 3 tips video on how to make your videos not suck. That's kind of my thing, is how to make videos that don't suck and actually make you money. It's kind of a joke. And then the other video that I talked about was a training on how to repurpose content, how to turn one video into 15 pieces of content. So like I provide training on that stuff. And like I said, I think it's a valuable skill to know. But I think there is a certain point of diminishing returns where, you're spending way too much time doing that, as opposed to just having somebody else do it for you, so you can actually focus on doing things that actually move the needle in your business, like having conversations with people and serving your clients that you already have. And and things like that.
Got it. And you said you can track the views on your Facebook video. Is it posted on your Facebook profile, or is it a business page that you're using to
It's my
distribute?
personal profile. Yeah, and the reason I can track it is that I use a Bitly link, so I can see how many clicks go to it. And then it's the video is hosted on Vimeo, so I can go into Vimeo and see how many views it has.
Wow, got it. Okay, that's good to know, because I assume many of us have personal profiles.
Yeah, and those are all
Um,
free tools too. Vimeo, obviously. I mean, they have a paid version, but the free version works well too. And then Bitly's free. Um, you know,
can you say it again? The free thing, Bitly,
Bitly, Bitly. You never seen
and
one of those?
what is that?
It's a link shortener. So if you go to, I think it's bit.ly, like you can put in a long, ugly link and it'll shorten it for you. So it's easier to like copy and paste and share and stuff. Like you'll see those a lot in like Facebook ads, like in the description, they'll show a Bitly link. But on the back end of Bitly, when you create that, it like tracks the stats and how many clicks and stuff that link gets.
2-in-1. I think I like it. I might
Yeah.
give it a try. Okay. And this targeted videos, can we select the audience? Is it like a Facebook ad, or how do we go about targeted videos?
So, I mean, yes, you can run ads. I don't currently. I plan to eventually, but I don't really think I'm at that point yet. But when I say targeted views, I mean it's like make sure that you're adding the right people who like I use one of the adding the extensions that you can use to like add a bunch of people, but I also go through and like look at actual conversations that are being had in groups where I know people are hanging out, and I go look at their profile for a minute. Like I just, it doesn't take long to go through and look to see if they know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, to see, kind of get a good feel for what it is they're doing. And then at that point, send them a message, add them as a friend or whatever, and then have an actual conversation. Don't just like sit there and, pitch them or whatever. But after a while, and they, if they're interested in what you're doing, they're asking questions about like, hey, I made this video about it. It kind of explains everything here in, a very logical way. So, would you be opposed to checking it out? And you're like, no, I wouldn't be opposed to that. So you send them the link and then they go watch it. So that's a targeted view, right? Like it takes a little bit more work, but it's a view of somebody who's like actually interested in what it is that you do. And at scale, that's not as sustainable, I guess, having all those conversations. I mean, you can hire a VA or something to do that for you if you wanted to. But then that's kind of where ads come in as well, where you can, if you're good at running ads, you can totally do that too.
Got it. This was again super useful. And you mentioned something about adding extensions to get people. What were we referring to?
So there's a Chrome extension called Friend Connector Pro. I think that's what it's called. Where you can go through and tell it to add a certain amount of people, but you need to be careful with those. I probably wouldn't recommend them to people. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that, to be honest, but I think it is a valuable tool if you know how to use it, and it'll go through and like add a certain amount of people based on certain criteria. It's pretty nifty, but the Facebook algorithm knows these things exist and they don't want them to exist, so they always change stuff. So, there's an inherent risk by using it. You need to be careful with it, because if you go and add like 500 friends in an hour, it's going to know, and then that's not good for anybody. You'll get like banned and stuff. So don't do that.
You definitely know a lot of tricks and extensions and things to change.
So as you know, I have a 7-month-old daughter. Based on my schedule, I have her for most of the day because my wife is working. So I have to find things that work for me in my schedule. And so I am all about some life hacks and things like that. Anything that I can use to save a little bit of time, or, anything like that, I'm all about it.
I feel like, this should be one of your next videos, life hacks and stuff. People really want that short solution, fast answer. So you should definitely give it a go with a life hacks or time saving hacks.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
when it becomes viral, just say where this idea came from.
I'll come and thank Maria for it.
Okay, we're almost there. But I know we talked about reels. We also talked about longer videos. Can you help us understand the distinction between short and long? Are they targeted to different sort of people? Is it related to how warm the lead is? When should we use one? When should we use the other? I know, again, there are a lot of answers for this, but in general, is there a specific way to use long videos, short videos?
So the old way to do it is to go and create long form videos and then also create short form videos and just be a burned out entrepreneur. Like there's that's the kind of the old way to do it. I think the 200 IQ play is to make the long form content. There's definitely value for both, right? Like there's not one that's better or worse than the other one. But I think the long form content is really good for demonstrating your expertise, like teaching about a specific topic, giving value, whatever the case may be, and then using the short form content to direct traffic to that, because now you're getting 2 views, I guess, from one person when you have the proper call to actions to kind of take them to the next step in your funnel and have like this kind of spider web of like different links and stuff for them to follow. And it's kind of a pain to set up sometimes, but if you have it set up right where you can track it, when you can see that people are going through all this stuff and they're following you all around, they're a raving fan and they're, pretty hot lead for you. So if you can track that and be able to have a conversation with them after you see that they've watched your long form content, they've also watched your short form content, they've gone to a landing page to get a freebie that you have or whatever the case may be, that's pretty powerful.
You mentioned again something about tracking. Is there anything you can recommend us? Another of those tools? What can we use to track?
So I use Go High Level, which is a CRM, kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none type tool. It does like email. The automations are really good for email and text and stuff like that. But it also has like a landing page builder. And I know ClickFunnels is coming out with 2.0 or whatever. That's supposed to be really good. So it, you can have membership areas in there. You can have funnels. And that's pretty much all I use it for. But I can see like part of my group funnel, my Facebook group, is that when you join my group, I tag you in a post with a free mini course to like how to plan, shoot, and edit videos like a pro that actually generate booked calls and appointments. So when I can see when people go through and enroll in that, because it's behind a membership area, so I get an email notification when somebody enrolls in that. So then I know, and then I can also like track their progress on the back end. And then also like what we talked about a minute ago with bit.ly links, if you leave links somewhere, you can see that kind of stuff. So
got it. So in the end, it's about being aware of all of this different systems, and then building your own system that works and allows you to have this
right.
image about everything that happens. Okay, well, I think we've really covered different topics, and I personally definitely have a better understanding of what needs to go behind my video content strategy, and a lot of new tips and tricks. This was honestly awesome. For all of our listeners interested to find out more about Kevin, maybe you want to ask him a question about the podcast, about anything else. As usual, you can easily find him on his Penside profile. From there, you can find his social channels, more about what he does. And yeah, Kevin, any last words for our awesome listeners today?
No, not really. If you're not making videos, you should make videos. If you're already making videos, you should make sure you're doing it strategically. That's about it.
That is on point. Was this practiced? Did you have it? Do you always use it?
What?
The last sentence. It was
No,
really
that was completely off the top of my head. I'm probably going to use it in the future though.
That's one of those gold nuggets that we were talking about.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. This was awesome. This was incredible. Thank you, dear listeners, for sticking till the end. This was definitely worth it. And we should see you hopefully for the next episode of our podcast. See you soon. Have a good one.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be releasing new ones every Wednesday. Make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars on your favourite podcast platform to give other people the chance to discover us too.